Welcome everybody to another Eqafe Hangout. Today we have two guests with me in this Hangout. We've got Guion from South Africa. Welcome, Guion. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Garb, for inviting me.
Sure. And we've got Valentin from Slovenia. Welcome, Valentin. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Okay, so first off, I just want to give you a little bit of info on what Eqafe is. It's a site in relation to the Destiny I process that we use to gain information about ourselves. It has many different topics, all about different aspects of our lives, our living environment. Any real issue we have, they have an interview on it, I'm sure. So it's eqafe.com. This is the material that we're going to be speaking about. That's what we speak about in these Hangouts. It's coming from this site. And today we will be discussing the Eqafe series on the sheep. And the sheep are coming through the interdimensional portal, which is Sunette Spies. I did an interview with her in a previous Hangout that I'll attach to this description so you guys can check her out and kind of gain more information about what she's about, her story, and learn about the portal if you have never heard of it or if you wanted to know more about Sunette's life. I'll post that and you can check that out. So we're going to get right into these interviews. There's a series on the sheep. There's many different animals, but we're going to be focusing on the sheep. There's 4 interviews in this series. I have also posted them in the description. Let's go with Valentin. Why don't you start and just give your perspective on, well, let's first start with what is the difference between the animal interviews and the other interviews that are on the Eqafe site? The animals have a different kind of perspective because they're still alive, they're speaking. Like, can you just explain a little bit about what the animal interviews are?
Yeah, so there are interviews on the website from the people who have lived in human physical bodies and have died, and also about beings that never incarnated in this dimension. And there are interviews about animals and their specific role in this world. And each animal speaks as a collective, so the sheep is talking as the whole sheep, like a race, like animal sort, and they explain their purpose in this life, how they came into existence. It is interesting that most of the animals were created to be spies, to report about humans, how the minds have developed in this reality. And then after this reality transformed, like solidified, they change their role, and but they have still their basic purpose within them, and from this purpose comes their ability to sense different things. So we will be talking today about specific abilities of the sheep, how they sense humans and reality here, and what we can learn about them, how we can, as humans, assist ourselves to understand this reality and to become more one and equal with all life here.
Cool, Valentin. Thanks for sharing. Guion, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
You do not. Okay.
Valentin covered it.
Cool. Okay. All right. So let's just move on to the next point. In this sheep series, what was like an aha moment or something you realized through this interview that you didn't know before, or that broadened your perspective on things? Like, what was something within yourself that you learned through these sheep interviews, Guion?
I'll go up within the sheep interviews number 1, first one. When I listened to it, first of all, the whole interview was aha. I was like, what? Sheep? You know, they just bah, bah. They just stand around in the field. They look all fluffy, and you know, that's just the sheep. And it's funny how we use sheep as to refer to people as being dumb or, you know, just a follower. But this interview completely took me on the road up, you know, back. I was like, this can't be sheep. They have too much information, too much knowledge. And the first thing that really hit me in the first interview was where the sheep was describing how a blade of grass changes with just the structures and the buildings, and for example a car passing by the blade of grass, because of the direct relationship that the grass is formed with the sun and what the sun has with the environment. So there, for example, the grass, what the sheep explains is the grass has to actually develop a survival. It has to go into surviving because now there's a structure in its way, or there's a car parked in front of the grass. So where the grass used to live freely and openly and, you know, just live, now there's a structure, and we actually place the grass as an example into a survival mode. And how does this have a consequential outflow on reality is when the sheep now eats the grass, it actually affects the sheep. And then the consequential outflows go on and on because we end up eating the sheep, or we end up using the wool. And it was all coming from our structures that we've built within survival within this world when we started the human revolution evolution of evolving into the species we are today. So I was like looking at, okay, so if a building is built and the grass has to now go from a living source, a living being awareness, to a surviving being awareness, then it changes the cellular structure, the DNA of the grass. And here's the sheep that can see all of this, and they still have to eat the grass regardless of how we as the humans have changed the environment just within things that we take for granted, things that we don't even consider that it even has a resonant effect on the grass. So what we put in, we get out, in other words. And I think it was very specific that the sheep used grass because grass is so small, you know. Every day we walk on it, every day we crush it with our feet. Every day animals pee, poo, humans cut and bale, and you know, we do a lot of things with grass every single day. And it actually, we don't consider those actions, we don't consider those moments, how we build our structures, and how it has an in fact influence on the entirety of everything that's here. So that expanded my world, you know. Now I don't just crush grass with my feet, walking around unaware. And that was for me in interview 1 the most aha, like, whoa, that is such a small point I didn't consider.
Yeah, exactly. And we as humans, we don't really at all have that consideration of the fact of the life essence and what actually is really going on within nature itself. I mean, we have really no connection to that. And what the sheep speaks about is that within each of them, they are all interconnected. They're all able to communicate with each other. They're all, like, I'm talking like animal, like a bird and a sheep can communicate with each other. I mean, these interviews are fascinating, what kind of abilities and skills that animals have within their awareness. And one of the points that is coming up now for me is when the sheep was speaking about how humans think consciousness is, enlightening into consciousness, into like higher vibrations of energy is this great goal to reach. But really we have never actually been able to understand what we're actually missing within. The essence of what they're speaking about is basically the life essence that does exist within everyone. And that humans are disconnected from that because of what we are participating within our minds and what, human evolution in our history is, with enslavement and things like that. So we'll discuss that later on in the interview. But Valentine, do you have any perspective, or what was one of your aha moments in the sheep interview that you want to discuss?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, I was surprised about the length of the interviews, because recent interviews are about 20 minutes, and each of 4 sheep interview is about 45 minutes. So it's a lot of information, a lot of details. Many things have been explained within these interviews. And of course, I was surprised about the explanation how everything in existence had its purpose. Its main purpose of being here, and how any parts of this existence, any living being, had agreements between themselves, how they will support each other, and how the sun had a purpose to be the source of life, of nutrients in this existence. So every plant then integrated this this food, and then converted into different form for other living beings. But every being was aware that they need to support each other. So, for example, when the sheep would eat, they would very carefully pick the ingredients, their food, but then they would also, when they would die, return this food to the ground, to other living beings. So everything was in this cycle of supporting each other. And I was shocked how, as humans, are in very deep unawareness of how life supports. We just think that valuable is only like a human form, that is like the peak of life evolution, and that any animal and living being that cannot communicate like verbally, like using words or sounds, is very dumb. It's very low life form, and it is not worth of respecting. So we destroy like even other human races. It is known that African people have been enslaved, or even other people from like third world countries are enslaved by some people from countries that they think that they are better and more worth of life. And in these interviews, it shows that the living beings communicate in a non-verbal way, but they still do communicate and are in awareness of themselves, of their physical bodies, and every other living beings in their surroundings. So we need to learn how to be more silent, be more calm, observant, and to try to regain these communication skills with every living being that is existing here. And this is a great challenge for us, humanity, how to come to this point that we already had in the past, like I was recently introduced with holographic kinetics healing method from Aborigines, so the natives of Australia, how they had this ancient knowledge, but it was forgotten. So we are now returning back to the roots, back to the source of life, and I hope that we will get there as soon as possible.
Yes, that's actually what brought all of us together, is this process of bringing ourselves back to life. And what the animals show within their interviews is, one, to show an example of what that actually looks like, what that actually means. The animals are living among us right here. I mean, I have a dog right here with me, and they're unconditional within their support. You know, that you look at lions or tigers or gorillas or something in the wild, and you see them, you know, killing each other. But if you, again, what Guillaume was saying, why they're doing that is because they have to survive. They're in survival mode. We're all in survival mode, not based on, you know, what the animals have done in this existence or what nature has done, but what the human has created in this existence. And us humans have lived in this way based on not really having access or understanding really who we are within ourselves, not really understanding that we also have that life essence within us. We also have the ability to connect to nature, to communicate with nature. And this process that we're all walking, the Destiny Eye process, is a way to walk this point, to live life. So let's bring some of these points that we've been discussing. How have you, within your process or in your life, brought some of these points back to yourself and maybe used animals in your lives or nature? How has nature been an example for you to change yourself into aligning more to life rather than existing in destruction? Guillaume, why don't you share?
Cool. Yeah, I'll share how I've used animals to bring me to life and to not be the destructive mind consciousness system. First of all, it is to be with the animal and not to be with yourself with the animal. That is my first suggestion, because we can always learn from the animal. We always think that we will teach the animal, but in fact it's the other way around. And we have to appreciate that. We have to take that intimate moment when you're with the animal to let go of ego. All right, like for example, I've worked with horses a lot. And when I, for the first time, worked with a horse, I was this male guy that needs to now control this horse. And I need to put this horse in its place and to respect me. And, you know, I had a lot of egoistic points coming up, for example, with a horse, because I already placed myself as superior being a human. So that didn't obviously work out because nature gave me a lot of resistance, you know, like the horse would give me a lot of resistance. So what I instead did was I changed the relationship where I looked at what can I learn from the horse? What can the horse teach me? And by taking that first step where you change your mindset, or in other words, stop your mind and be physical and breathe, you can learn from nature a lot. What I also did is to implement this into my life. I would participate a lot in just going into the wild, into a forest or a patch of land, and I'll just sit and I'll hear what is here and I'll see what is here. And surprisingly, you'll start seeing all the life around you. and you will start seeing that they get comfortable with you the more you do this, because I use this as a reference. If I can walk past a wild animal without it running away, then I'm obviously here and not seen as a mind consciousness system. And this requires you to breathe a lot. Because if you look in the wild, a deer can walk past another animal, and the other animal doesn't run away, right? So why, when a human walks past, all the animals run away? You know, that's obviously showing you something. So I'm using that as a reference, and incredibly enough, over time, the animals, as you do self-forgiveness, as you walk your process, as you release the energy within you, and you be here more, the animals start seeing you as part of nature. They don't see you as a threat. They don't see you as something out there. They see you as something that's here. And therefore, they just allow you to walk by. And this requires you to slow down a lot. Like when you walk, you have to walk like a baby. It's a rebirth process. You know, when you walk in the forest or the field, and you have to have no intention, no rush, no energy, no stress. So you have to learn to let go of that, because that is destructive in its nature. You are a threat to life just with being in stress, fear, and anxiety or whatever, because you're unpredictable. You are a mind that can just go anywhere, anytime. So that's a cool stability point that I've used for myself to take myself more to life. Now, I'm not saying nature is nice. Okay, I'm not saying nature is also beautiful. There is some pretty shitty things in nature that can definitely change, and I do not accept and allow that with inside of myself either. Like animals fighting for no reason, you know, like you stop your dogs fighting, because obviously they also have some stuff going on sometimes. But yeah, to also be aware of every step I take, every move I make. You know, I have to be watching. And yeah, so basically it's just to be here. Be aware of the grass you're stepping on. Sorry, I was quoting a song there for a moment.
No, that's really a cool example, Gian.
And what I've also done is with bugs, because bugs really trigger your internal things. You know, if you have a fly, a spider, or some creepy crawly up your toes, and you're like, ah, what is this? You know, it's to show that you're not here, you're in fear. You know, it's showing a paranoia that's actually running the whole time. Or with flies, you're like very anticipation, you're like very frustrated, irritated, annoyed. So every bug that bugs me is showing something that exists within me. You know, the bug is not it that is making me experience what I'm experiencing. So that's why I've used bugs to support and assist me, and to let go of the experience and to see, can I allow a fly to walk across my eyeball without having a reaction? You know? And that way I just breathe and I see what's here, and then I can physically check, okay, it's on my eye, that's impractical, get off, you know. So this is how I've used nature. Like mosquitoes, I faced a lot of mosquito annoyance because I'm trying to sleep. You know, you're tired, it's been a long day, and then this mosquito comes and you're like, oh no. But I must tell you, the mosquito seems to always support me to not be in my thoughts, to not think. And it actually quite supports a lot to be here. Even though that sound is annoying, but that sound is better than me participating in back chat, gossip, thoughts, feelings, or emotions. So, you know, you really have to change your view, your point of view, and see everything as support, as assistance. Because the animals are pretty specific. You know, the bugs are pretty specific, and we can see that it all exists within us. So yeah, that's how I have applied it in small daily. And there's obviously I can speak another 2 hours, but that's what I have for now.
Cool, Gian. Very cool examples. I can relate to a lot to that too. especially the bug point. Yeah, but I mean, Valentine, why don't you share your perspective on that?
Yeah, so during the primary school in the biology class, we used to use frogs as to study anatomy, and we cut them open to see the internal organs, and we were told that it's just a frog. It's a low life form. It does not feel much. It does not cry. It is okay to research to know how the internal organs look like. And I, after school, also went to the nature, to the woods, caught all sorts of small animals and studied it. And once I did, I wanted to catch a lot of birds and domesticate them, but I then noticed that they were not cool with that, and they started to die in captivity. And I also had many domestic animals, like pets, a dog, and so on. Especially, for example, dog is a pure expression of selfless love, and it's great to observe them, how they are kind and expressive. And then when I go here in the Maribor city, walking on the bank of the Drava River, there are a lot of swans and ducks. And I observe, for example, swans, how they are gracious and fearless and so on. And I'm wondering how they are much smaller than humans, but they do not have fear. They stand for themselves, regardless of the threat. So within all these my life experiences, and especially after hearing the interviews from the animals, I started to understand animals more, how they are observant, in awareness, in support of each other. And I also started to deliberately not harm them, to respect them, to develop compassion, to become one with them. So I'm not torturing or harming any animal. And even a day ago, there was a small, like a fly near my bed on the wall, and I could mistakenly recognize it as mosquito, but it was not. And usually when humans see a fly or some insect, they immediately kill it. But I said to myself, how would I feel if I would be this fly? And I then, of course, left it alone. I did not chase it away. I just left it to be there on the wall. It does not disturb me. So why fight it? And this is how I'm now treating the animals. And I'm also, of course, sharing this information with others, blogging in Slovenian language for other people also to benefit from this understanding, so that we can, remove the fear of survival and to start researching how we can support each other. Because animals are supporting humans. They do exist here also now in the later age to give humans food, and they are in awareness of this. And the least that humans can do to express thanks back to the animals is to raise them in the best way possible, like free range animals and so on, so that we are not keeping them in cages and torturing them and giving them all sort of junk food and antibiotics and so on when we are eventually going to eat them. So at least we can give them this dignity until they are living, until we kill them for food, to provide them the best life possible. This is the least that we can do.
Right. And supporting them within the principle of what is best for all, that is one of the, well, that is a principle that we walk within the Destiny Eye process, is doing what's best for all, and then through your own actions, you eventually live it out in your reality. So yes, treating animals with respect, giving them the life that you would want if you were the animal, free range, food that is nutritious, things like that. That is something we, as humanity, should be correcting within ourselves and working towards, because if animals are treated well, we're treated well. As you treat animals well, you're in turn treating yourself well. We have corrected ourselves, and the world will be much more peaceful. And so within, one of the points that was coming up for me while you guys were talking was with Henry, my dog. He's been with me now for 6 years. And one of the most fascinating things that I've learned from him is the simplicity of just being here. And he can sit, just be still, and look out into the air and just sit and have no movement within him. You can sense that there is no movement going on within him. He's just sniffing, he's looking out, his ears are out. He's physically here, present within the reality. And that has supported me within myself, practicing that, just being here, breathing. Within the Destiny Eye process, you learn the tools to walk forgiveness, self-forgiveness. So if you see thoughts going through, you can walk your self-forgiveness. And then eventually, as you change yourself within that point that you're thinking about, you'll be able to then become still within yourself. The thoughts will be released, and now you're still, because you're not participating, you're not living in those thoughts any longer. So having animals in your life, you can be supported, like Guion and Valentine shared, but also with understanding what being here means, like being still. Being here is here as in hearing, and here as in being here in your presence is the same word. So you can hear what is here. You can hear the sounds of the bugs flying by. You can hear, the cars going by. You can hear the birds chirping outside. You're able to hear reality for what it is. You're no more, hearing your thoughts buzz through your head and reacting and being all over the place. So animals support with grounding yourself in the physical reality. And one of the principles, or one of the points that they share through these interviews, the sheep interviews, is that the physical is actually where life is. It's in physical reality, and how we as humans are able to become life is grounding ourselves within our physical bodies. So our physical bodies are extremely important and a huge support for us as we walk this Destiny Eye process. So let's talk a little bit about why us as humans are not able to align to life like easily. Why is it such a process? Why is it, why can't we connect to animals? Why can't we communicate? What is preventing us from being life? And on the other hand, why are we so destructive in this reality? Gian, why don't you share, please?
Fear. Well, actually, Gaurav, it's interesting that you bring this topic up. When I was younger, I used to be able to communicate with animals. And I was literally able to play with snakes and scorpion.
Yeah. Sorry, again, I've been fascinated by this point. I've been always wanting you to explain yourself here, so go for it.
And also, when I was between the age of 6 and 7, all the injured animals would always come to me. Like in random places, a bird will fly to my feet or crawl to my feet. And it's funny because when I look back at it, I find it strange. But when I really stand within who I was as that kid, it was absolutely normal. Like that's how it should be, you know? And I remember, for example, the communication I'm talking about here isn't verbal. It isn't at all a voice in your head or yeah, it's like a oneness. It's like you look at the animal and that it's here. You have to be here 100%. And it's like a wildness, if I can put it that way. How I used to communicate with the snakes. It's just you just look at the snake and boom, you have a connection. You know, the connection isn't even made, it's already there. I remember specifically when I first took my tree snake out of the tree, the first one I caught, well, didn't catch, I actually just took him because it was our agreement that I could take him. And he was in a tree right next to me, and he was hanging halfway down, and he was looking at me. And I was looking at him, and I was like, I got this little bit of excitement, like a new animal, you know, a new being. And I just grabbed him out of the tree, and I put him in this little bucket, this little container. And it's fascinating because the agreement me and the snake had was instant, where me and the snake agreed without any voices, without any thoughts. It was in here in the chest, the agreement. And it comes up as a little, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a visualization that the snake gave me permission within the agreement that I can explore with him. So I put him in a little box, and I carried him all day in this little box where I put in leaves and I put in other spiders that I caught, which was black widows and things. And the snake just laid in this little box because we had an agreement, and I had no fear. That's the thing I can remember. It's absolutely no fear. And that same day, there's a black snake, this massive black snake. And we had an agreement that I can play with him as well if I catch him. So he slithered in between bricks, and here I go, and I start picking up all the bricks. And when I grabbed him, he was calm, quiet. And I put him in the box with the other snake. Now these are two completely different snakes, and there's black widows in the box. So I just walked around with them all day in this little box. They didn't crawl out, didn't go out. And for example, when my dad would fight scorpions, he would tell me like, stay away, stay away. And then he would run to go get a stone or get a spade or something to kill the scorpion because it can kill us. So I would pick the scorpion up, and we have an agreement that I'm gonna go put him somewhere safe. So when my dad comes back, the scorpion is gone. And he's like, where's the scorpion? I was like, I don't know, probably walked away. And these kind of things happened to me naturally between, I remember 6 and 7, those ages, because I still have memories of, I don't know, before that, I have vague memories from there on. But there was no separation. I mean, I was always barefoot and always naked in our garden. You know, I never had clothes on. And I would walk in the bushes, and I'll never get a tick. I'll never get anything on my body that could harm me. Nothing would ever harm me. And I would walk past in the bush a little deer, if you want to call him a deer, and we'll just look at each other and it's like normal. There wasn't like, a deer, whoa, you know, I didn't go into any energy ever. But as time progressed and my parents and older people started imprinting fear of what I was doing because they started seeing me do these things. And especially my grandfather, because he would actually, one time he slapped me because I had a black widow that I held in my hand like this, and it was making a web in between my fingers because that's what we wanted to do. So that kind of imprinted a moment of fear extensively, but I think the fear wasn't for the animals, it was the fear of other people and their fear. I started developing a fear toward other people's fear of how they can harm me as a little kid because of me playing with these dangerous animals. And also consequences was that adults would go out and kill the animals now because I have such an intimate relationship, it's dangerous. Because the snake might bite me, the snake might harm me. You know, it kept coming up and up and up. So over time, I had this distant feeling, and the animals completely changed. They stopped recognizing me. They didn't see me anymore, even though I could see them. But they didn't see me. So I kind of gave up on that part and just gave into fear and the system and life and satisfying everyone. To not have people reacting and fighting me the whole time and wanting to harm the animals. So the communication you're looking at isn't how humans communicate at all. In fact, it's you. The snake is you. You know, it's literally not a physical part of you. It's a different form. And you have to really be connected with it in your expression here. But the moment fear creeps in, and the moment any insecurities, which is fear, any fear basically creeps in, there is no possible communication, even the smallest amount of fear, even a reaction, even a thought of what if. And that was imprinted, taught to all of us, you know, by the system, by the mind, because the more we are distant from nature, from animals, the more nature and animals can be controlled for profit, for self-interest, because we don't feel anything. We don't develop one and equal relationships with nature the same way we do with humans. And I can't even say we create a relationship with humans. It's just two mind consciousness systems creating bullshit. You know, so that's how fear is dictating. And you can see there's a couple of examples in this world, like I think there's Tippy, or there's one girl that used to live in Africa and how she would communicate with animals as well. And yeah, there's a couple of other examples, but there's no feeling involved. The feelings that we know. There's no thought, and there's no fear. It's awesome in a way, because there is also no classification of animals. You don't classify animals as that's a snake, that's a scorpion, because the word itself is designed within the mind consciousness system and already defining the animals according to the mind consciousness system. So just saying that's a snake, you're activating a mind consciousness system. So it's already a separation, it's already a fear, it's already a sneakiness. Everything comes up just within that word. And as a kid, I didn't have those words, so I didn't attach it to the animals, and therefore my environment and everything was just one thing. It's me expressing, me living. So you have to really get in tune with life and let go of all fear if you want to really get to know the other parts of yourself.
Right. Yeah, one practical point that came up for me while you were speaking, Guion, was a point where what supported me to connect to nature more and because during our days, you know, being in the system, working, having to survive, having to make money, having to, you know, feed your families, have a house over your head, and things like that, people just don't even consider animals. They don't consider, you know, the trees that are giving us life. We're just so completely, you know, lost in trying to survive here. So some support if you are having that kind of lifestyle is you can, for maybe 2-3 days a week, just go out in the woods, go out in nature and just walk and just, you know, and not only walk, but be observant to the different kind of trees that are there and the different birds and the different sounds you hear. Go see a river and see the water flow, like watch the water flow from the, you know, off the rocks and things like that. Where is the water going? What is around the water? What's being created by the water? That really supported me because I used to run a lot and I would run through the woods and with my dogs. I always had dogs with me. I grew up with dogs, so. But recently I never connected to my dogs like since I've been walking this Destiny I process and learning, you know, what it means to actually be here, like live, experience breathing, experience presence, letting go of my thoughts. Like this process that we're walking in the Destiny I process supports, the purpose of it is to become life so we can, you know, be here and create what is best for all. Because obviously what we're creating now is destructive and not supporting ourselves, and it's not supporting nature, animals, and things like that. So yeah, we're in a process now to correct ourselves as humanity. And yeah, this interview, the sheep interview, was supportive in understanding, you know, more the, understanding more the reasons why humans are existing the way they are, and how, you know, the intricacies of the things that we do in this reality, like taking medicine and things like that, why that seems normal, but maybe it seems normal to us, but if we open ourselves up to more perspective, we can see something different and then learn. So it's a learning process. Valentine, do you have any support that you can share in terms of your process that you've walked, and maybe some practical examples to support the viewers in becoming more present, and how the Destiny I process has supported you?
I would first like to give word to Gian. He raised his hand. I don't know if you noticed it. So, Gian.
Valentine,
No, I didn't. Sorry, Gian.
I just wanted to make something clear. With listening to Eqafe products, I have found, especially the animal interviews, that it opens up that point of who I am as that child that used to play with animals. Because as a child, I find the Eqafe interviews opens up, and that it explores reality more. It's as if those points were naturally there as a child. It wasn't as knowledge information. It was as a natural expression, knowing like what the sheep tells you, you know, the blade of grass is in survival if there's a building. And as a child, I feel that was naturally unknown, and then it was forgotten. So now through the Eqafe interviews, gaining that knowledge information again, and then applying it, living it, you know, implementing it into your daily life, you are redesigning yourself to awareness. And that's how what I've experienced for doing Eqafe. Every time I listen to Eqafe products on animals, for example, I go back into nature, back into the wild, I can feel that little bit of expansion in who I am in my awareness. So it's like, see Eqafe products as a booster pack, you know, just take a dose, and then you go into the wild and you immediately live it and implement it. And you'll be like, wow, I can actually practically, as my beingness, embrace this interview and live it.
Nice. Very cool. Valentine, do you want to share?
Yeah, so these interviews with animals inspired me to that level that I definitely plan to, as soon as possible, buy some land with some nature, like woods and wild animals, and to start living in nature, because now I'm currently in the city and I'm living in apartment block, and I miss this connection with nature, and I definitely want to spend the rest of my life more connected to nature, to animals, to live outside, not being surrounded with concrete and metal objects and so on. And I think that we all need to go back to the nature, to reconnect with all living beings. So I would definitely invite everyone to listen to the Eqafe series with animals and to benefit from a great amount of realization that is offering here.
Right. Cool. Thanks, Valentin. And just the one last thing to add from me is the gift that is what the animals share through their awareness, through the portal, and speaking on really directly how they're living, and showing humans, or showing us who listen, that there is more than meets our eyes. There is more than we have ever really known in this existence, and there's much more to come. So definitely check out these interviews, check out the animal interviews. If you have any questions or you want to discuss points, please share them on the comment section in the YouTube, and we'll answer them for sure. We also have Facebook groups and things like that, so if you want to join, go for it. And Valentin or Guion, do you have any last words you want to share? I'm gonna end the interview. End the Hangout.
Being interviewed? Is this a conspiracy?
Yeah.
I'm cool.
Oh, good, cool. All right. So thanks for being here, Guion and Valentin. Great discussion.
Cool. It's nice to be here.
It was my pleasure.
Great. All right. So thanks everybody for viewing, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.